The story begins where all things are still, in the endless grasslands of Central Asia. You feel the breath of the wind as it combs through your hair like memory. The earth is vast, the sky uninterrupted, the horizon a promise. Here, among quiet herders and flickering fires, a boy named Temujin is born. The silence is deep, but something ancient stirs beneath it. The steppe stretches before you like an endless sea of soft grass, rippling in silence beneath the sky. There are no cities here, no woods, no noise except the rustle of the wind brushing against your skin like the hand of something older than time. You lie back in the saddle of the earth and listen. The land speaks not with words, but with breath, long, slow, patient breath. Your eyes rise upward. The sky feels close but infinite. A dome of pale blue in daylight, velvet black at night, always watching, always still. The people who live here, the herders, the hunters, the riders, call it the eternal blue sky. It is not a place. It is not a god. It is a presence. It teaches you to move gently, to travel light, to trust the rhythms of the earth beneath you. You hear hooves in the distance, soft as a heartbeat. A small band of yurts, round, white tents like sleeping moons, stand at the edge of a riverbank. Smoke curls from their tops, curling into the morning air. Horses graze beside children who laugh without knowing what a border is. Women draw water with practiced hands. Men mend saddles, sharpen blades, sing songs to the horizon. Their world is made of movement. They live not behind doors, but beneath the sky, between the grass and wind. In one of these tents, a child is born. His name is Temujin. You do not know it yet, but his name will carry across continents. Not because of where he was born, no palace, no throne, but because of how he listens to the wind. He is small, fragile like any baby, wrapped in felt and placed near the fire. But around him the world is shifting. His father is a tribal leader, a man of respect. Yet the tribes here are like scattered stars, bright but separate. They raid, they flee, they form and dissolve like clouds. Unity is a word not yet spoken. You watch the boy grow in seasons. He learns to ride before he can run. The horse is his second body. Its movement becomes his thought. He learns to read the land by scent, by shadow, by the way birds circle above. The bow becomes a whisper in his hand. He does not hunt with anger. He hunts with stillness. And yet his childhood is not soft. One winter, his father is poisoned by enemies. Just like that, the warmth of kinship turns to cold betrayal. Temujin's family is cast out, abandoned by their tribe, left to starve in the snow. You feel the wind now not as a lullaby, but as a blade. Food disappears. Friends vanish. They eat roots, rodents, whatever the land gives. The fire dims, but does not die. It is here, in this silence of exile, that the seed is planted. Not just the hunger for survival, but the hunger for unity. Temujin begins to see what others do not. That strength is not in numbers, but in loyalty. That the steppe, with all its beauty, is also fragile, divided by pride, shattered by fear. He dreams not of gold, but of bonds that do not break in winter. Still, the boy is not yet a leader. He is only a shadow in the grass, watching, waiting, listening. Time moves differently here. Days are marked by the rhythm of hooves, not by clocks. Nights are quiet except for the howl of wolves and the songs of elders. Around fires, stories are told of past khans, of gods who ride the wind, of warriors whose arrows never missed. Temujin listens. He does not speak much, but the stories sink into him like stars into a dark sky. You begin to sense it too, the quiet echo of destiny building not with noise, but with repetition. The same wind, the same sky, the same hunger, over and over, until one day, something will break open. But not yet. Now you ride alongside him. You feel the saddle creak beneath you, the cold leather beneath your hands. You see the same horizon, endless, soft, and silent. And somewhere in your chest, you carry the question he does not yet know how to ask. What if all these scattered stars could burn as one? Night falls again over the steppe. The fires dim, the yurts settle, children sleep, their dreams wrapped in animal skins and ancestral songs. Above, the sky watches, unchanged, eternal. And beneath it, a boy with no tribe and no title sharpens his will in silence. You lie down beside the grass. The wind brushes your face again, gentle as memory. Tomorrow will come, but tonight the earth holds you, and as the first snow of a new winter begins to fall, you wonder, what kind of name is forged in hunger? Temujin is not raised in safety. He is raised in survival. Your body feels the bite of hunger, the ache of exile, the lessons of loyalty. As tribes fracture and brothers turn cold, a leader is being shaped in quiet. You listen to the whispers of ambition hidden in every breath of frost. And the boy takes his first steps toward the name history will not forget, Genghis Khan. The wind shifts. It carries a colder tone now, not the gentle breath of the steppe, but a sharper bite. You feel it on your skin, on your teeth, in the space behind your ribs. The grass that once rippled like a sea now crunches with frost. And hunger begins its quiet reign. You're no longer in a warm yurt with laughter near the fire. You are outside of it, cast out, alone. Temujin, barely a boy, stands with his family in the emptiness. His father is gone, poisoned by rivals who saw too much promise in his bloodline. And with his death, all protection evaporates. No tribe comes to aid them. No elders offer counsel. Former allies avert their eyes and ride away. In a world where power is the only shield, a boy without it is less than wind. You walk beside him now, barefoot over frozen grass. The sky stretches gray above, cold and distant. His mother, Holun, teaches her children to dig roots from the soil, to boil bones for broth, to slice bark for fiber. Their fire is small and smoky. Nights are long. Hunger teaches not just pain, it teaches memory. Your body feels this hunger, not just in the stomach, but in the bones. It makes everything slower. It makes the mind sharper. Hunger is not just a craving, it is a whisper. Endure. Learn. Become. Temujin learns who stays and who leaves. His older half-brother, Begtur, begins to hoard food, asserting dominance over the family. The bond between brothers frays like rope soaked in ice. In the quiet dusk of one evening, Temujin and his younger brother Kasar take up bows and end Begtur's hold forever. There is no celebration, only silence. The snow keeps falling, but in that silence, something hardens. Temujin is not cruel, but he learns that softness is a danger. That leadership demands more than age or blood. It demands intention. He does not yet call himself a leader, but the idea roots itself in him. Slowly, steadily, time moves differently in exile. You measure it by the shift of seasons, the growth of your hands, the lessons hidden in the way your mother sings at night. Temujin watches the sky and the patterns of the herds. He learns how to track men the way others track deer. He notices who shares and who takes. He begins to understand the map of human loyalty, a shifting terrain with its own weather. Years pass. He marries a girl named Borte, whose quiet strength mirrors his own. She becomes a fixed star in his sky, a comfort among constant change. And through her, new alliances slowly form. Not from fear, but from shared hunger, from shared exile. You ride with him now, not as a boy, but as a man beginning to gather names. Followers, friends, shadows of warriors who remember what he endured and trust what he sees. Not just blood brothers, and soul-bonded companions, loyal beyond kin. Still, the path is not clear. Temujin is captured once by a rival tribe, the Tud, locked in a wooden collar like an animal. But even there, in chains, he watches and listens. He earns the favor of a guard. He waits for a moment. Then, like the wind before a storm, he moves. Escape becomes a lesson, not in flight, but in timing, in silence, in patience. You feel it in your own breath now, how stillness is not absence, but preparation. With each new winter, his followers grow, not because of his name, but because of what he offers: justice, clarity, shared survival. He does not demand obedience. He creates space for it to form naturally. He treats the children of peasants the same as the sons of lords. He redistributes spoils with care. You see how the old ways begin to shake. The world of steppe tribes, fragmented, prideful, ruled by heritage and impulse, begins to crack under the weight of something new. Something steadier, something shaped by hunger, but directed by choice. And yet, there is still doubt. There are still betrayals. One childhood friend, Jamuka, rises as his rival, not just in arms, but in vision. Jamuka fights to preserve tradition, to protect the old ways. Temujin fights to reshape them. Two winds moving in opposite directions. Their first clash leaves scars. Blood stains the grass. Captives are executed. Loyalty is tested in the deepest parts of the soul. You feel it, the ache of principle versus memory. Temujin loses that battle, but he gains something greater, clarity. He learns who truly rides with him and why. He learns that a name is not forged by victories alone. It is carved slowly, like wood, through hunger, loss, and return. The fire within him does not dim. It sharpens. You feel it pulsing beneath your ribs, that quiet certainty. I will not be scattered like dust. One night, beneath the stars that stretch like silver threads above the steppe, he speaks to his men. Not in anger, not in command, but with purpose. He speaks of unity, of strength not from blood, but from bond. He does not promise power. He promises meaning. And they listen. This is the moment when you begin to feel it. Not just the boy, not just the exile, but the shape of something more, something rising. A name is no longer just a sound. It is a memory, a story, a promise whispered to the wind. Temujin does not yet call himself Khan, but he rides with a different weight now, not heavier, but deeper. He begins to shape the world, not just react to it. And the hunger that once gnawed at his belly now fuels a vision that requires more than survival. It requires a bow and a horse. The horse is more than a mount. It is part of your soul. You sleep among hooves and leather, learning to ride before you walk. The bow curves like the crescent moon, quiet but deadly. Together, the horse and bow become wings, and the steppes become air. The Mongols don't build cities. They become the wind that rides over them. The ground beneath you does not stay still for long. It rolls out like silk stretched beneath the sky, endless, open, waiting to be ridden. You are born into motion, into a world where your footsteps are not enough. You need hooves. You need wind. You need the horse. You meet your first horse not as an outsider, but as kin. Its breath is warm on your fingers. Its eyes are dark and ancient. You do not name it like a possession. You grow beside it like a sibling. It carries your weight before you know how to balance it. You cling to its mane before you even understand what fear is. There is no saddle, not yet. No reins, just the rhythm of hooves and heartbeat moving together over the grass. You learn balance by falling. You learn speed by chasing shadows. You learn direction by listening, not to maps, but to the language of the wind. And beside this bond, another shape forms in your hands, the bow. It is not loud. It is not heavy. It sings softly when it speaks. It curves with grace, like the moon in its first sliver. It is made of horn and sinew and wood, bound by tension and memory. You feel it pull against you, alive with potential. The arrow is light, but it carries weight, not in mass, but in meaning. You draw it back, slow and sure, and let it fly. And it flies not just forward, but through time. This is not the weapon of kings who sit behind stone walls. This is not the sword raised in ceremony. This is the tool of the rider, of the nomad, of the steppe. It is made to move. It is made to bend with the wind. Now imagine yourself riding. Really feel it. The gallop becomes a drumbeat. The bow is drawn without breaking stride. You twist your body in midair, shoot behind you, hit a bird in flight. Your hands do not tremble. Your eyes do not blink. You are one shape now, horse, bow, breath, sky. You're not bound to a road. There are no roads, only direction, only will. The Mongol way is not to build tall walls or stack stone upon stone. It is to move swiftly and unseen, like morning fog lifting from the plain. And when you come, you arrive all at once, hundreds, thousands, in silence and in storm. But this is not chaos. This is choreography. Each rider knows where to be, when to move, how to feint, how to encircle. Communication is not shouted. It is felt. Flags wave in patterns, whistles pierce the air, and messages fly as fast as arrows. You train in this not as sport, but as life. Children shoot from horseback before they can recite their age. Women ride with the same skill as men. The herd is your school, the hunt your teacher. And in this way, the Mongol army is born not in barracks, but in the cradle. It is not an institution. It is an instinct. You rest now beside a small fire, saddle as pillow, reins looped gently around your wrist. The horse stands nearby, never tethered but never far. The bow lies next to you, wrapped in cloth to keep the moisture from its curve. This is your life, simple, mobile, alert. There is no clutter, nothing extra, only what you need. And what you need is the freedom to move. The steppe does not reward stillness. It rewards adaptation. Seasons change quickly. Enemies appear and vanish like ghosts. Your strength is not in fortresses, but in flexibility. Your village moves when needed. Your yurt comes down in minutes. Your world packs into saddlebags. This is not weakness. This is survival perfected. When Temujin rides now, he does not ride alone. His warriors stretch to the horizon, each a shadow on horseback. They do not wait for war to come to them. They become the storm. Their horses run for days without pause. Their arrows fall like rain. Their breath comes in rhythm with the land. And the land, the eternal steppe, remembers them. You ride across a field where no cities ever stood, but where legends gallop still. You feel the ghosts of hooves. You hear the echo of drawstrings pulled tight. You sense that power is not always something loud or visible. Sometimes it's a whisper moving just ahead of you in the grass. The Mongols do not claim territory the way others do. They do not build monuments or carve their names into stone, but they leave something deeper, memory carved into the movement of nations, into trade routes reshaped into languages that borrow their words. Because movement itself becomes a message. And so you ride still, past rivers, past mountains, past borders that only others see. You carry with you not just weapons, but vision. You ride not to escape the world, but to reshape it. There is no throne beneath you, only a saddle. And yet, you feel the weight of command growing, not through force, but through trust. And as the moon rises once again over the plains, you ask yourself softly, what holds an empire together, if not walls? Beneath the wide and holy sky, Genghis shapes his empire not with buildings, but with rules. The Yasa, a whispered law without books, binds warriors like thread through armor. You feel the slow rhythm of justice in motion, swift, strange, but clean. There is order in the storm, like stars in night's blackness. And the dream of unity spreads on the back of every galloping breath. The wind still moves, but now it carries more than dust. It carries the shape of order, not carved in stone, not scribed in scrolls, but living in the breath of men who ride under one sky. You sit beside a circle of riders, their faces lit by firelight. No court, no throne, just grass beneath and stars above. And yet, decisions are made here that will shape continents. Punishments are given, oaths are spoken, laws, though no parchment shows them, are laid like tracks beneath a galloping horse. This is Yasa, the law of the Khan, not written in books, but in memory, not stored in libraries, but in the hearts of his people. You feel its presence the way you feel gravity, quiet, constant, shaping everything. The eternal blue sky above is vast, open, impartial. It does not favor one tribe over another. It sees without blinking. And so must the law. Genghis Khan does not lead only with a bow. He leads with discipline, with vision. You see him seated among his men, his voice low but firm. He speaks of fairness, not as kindness, but as necessity. A stolen animal must be returned. A soldier who lies must face judgment. All men, no matter their birth, must follow the same path. There's comfort in this rhythm, strange, perhaps, to those from empires of marble and gold. But here, justice moves not in buildings, but between hooves and breath. You remember the steppe. It does not tolerate imbalance. If one horse eats more than its share, the herd weakens. If one rider sleeps while others guard, the camp suffers. The law reflects this natural wisdom, harmony through duty. Under Yasa, the Mongol army becomes more than a force. It becomes a body, every rider a limb, every message a pulse. Orders flow like blood. Discipline is not taught by shouting. It is expected, lived. You ride beside them now and notice there is no looting without command, no battle cry without signal, no cruelty without consequence. Mercy is allowed, but only where order permits it. Even religion, that deep-rooted tree in every heart, is protected. The Khan does not ask you to abandon your gods. He asks only that they not divide you. Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, you are welcome, so long as the fire of belief does not burn unity. And taxes? They are collected not by fear, but by schedule. Messengers arrive on time. Goods are measured. Trade flows. There is peace between posts, because everyone knows the law travels faster than the sword. It is a strange thing, you think, to find such balance in the heart of conquest. But Genghis understands what many do not. That power is not in fire alone. It is in the quiet aftermath, in how people live, trade, speak, marry. So he shapes not just a battlefield, but a world. You hear stories around the fire. A man who once stole from the supply train is now sweeping ashes in silence. Another, once drunk and loud, rides now with a tighter grip on his flask. There is no room for chaos that endangers the whole. And women, they are not pushed aside. Genghis listens to his mother, his wife, his daughters. Some hold command, some shape alliances. The law protects their voice, because even the wind listens when the fire speaks softly. You close your eyes and feel it. This quiet empire, riding forward not on thrones, but on shared agreements. What is law? After all, if not a promise repeated often enough to become truth. There is beauty in how it holds, not with walls, but with trust. And yet, you wonder, how far can one promise stretch? How far can a law travel before it forgets its own shape? You open your eyes to the horizon. Riders move in disciplined silence. The camp breaks and rebuilds in minutes. And you begin to understand, law is not always written. Sometimes, it is simply what everyone remembers together. But memory, like wind, can shift. And even the strongest law needs more than words to carry it forward. It needs messengers. The city of Bokhara lies behind thick walls, proud and waiting. But you do not climb over its ramparts. You walk in when the doors open in fear. Your breath catches as silk and script spill out into your hands. Here, the conqueror does not destroy with rage. He speaks with thunder and leaves memory. This is not just war. It is transformation without return. The earth changes under your feet as you approach Bokhara. No longer the soft grass of the steppe, but packed stone roads and dusty courtyards. The air carries not only wind, but the scent of spice, of ink, of fear. You feel it, a different kind of silence now. Not the hush of nature, but the held breath of walls waiting to be broken. Bokhara stands proud behind its bricks. A city of scholars, markets, mosques, and memories. It is a place where stories are written with care, where ink flows more than blood, or so it was before the sound of hooves. You arrive not as a wanderer, but as the edge of a storm. And yet, there is no siege, no long campaign, no battering of gates. The city does not fall. It folds. Word reaches its leaders before your footsteps do. Word travels faster than arrows now. Word of the man who cannot be stopped, who speaks little, but whose silence changes the shape of maps. And so the gates open, not with celebration, not with welcome, but with trembling. You walk beneath the great arches as if passing through memory itself. Eyes watch from windows. Doors shut softly as you pass. The city remains still, like an animal hoping not to be seen. But you see everything. You do not burn it all. That is not your way. There is no wildfire here, only selected sparks. You walk through the mosque and ask for the imam. He comes, uncertain, trembling beneath his robe. Genghis Khan speaks. I'm the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me. The words do not roar. They fall like cold water, calm and final. You're not here to make peace. You are here to make permanence. And so you do. You move through the city not like a conqueror, but like a sculptor, taking what serves your vision, breaking what resists it. Scribes are spared. You need their hands. Artisans live. You need their minds. But the elite who resist, who plot behind their coins and scrolls, are removed with silence. You gather the people in the mosque, 1,000 men kneeling, the air heavy with incense and dread. And above them, you do not chant, do not rage, you instruct. You name what will change. You explain what will remain. Order, taxes, passage, life, all reshaped under the wide shadow of your rule. It is not mercy. It is not cruelty. It is transformation. You watch the faces as they listen. Some nod, broken. Some blink, confused. But all understand, the old world has ended. You step outside again and walk the city's edge. Carpets hang from doorways. Books lie open in corners. The river murmurs the same way it always has. But you know, nothing will flow the same way again. This is how conquest breathes when it is patient. You walk through the market square, now emptied. You pick up a scroll, soft with age. It is written in a script you do not know, but your fingers feel its weight. You do not tear it. You hand it to a scribe and tell him to keep copying. Knowledge is not your enemy. It is your instrument. And yet, fear remains. You feel it pressing against every corner. People move slowly, speak softly, as though the city itself must relearn how to be alive. You camp just outside the walls. The fire is low. The stars look different here, narrower as if confined by towers. And in the quiet, you remember, this is only the beginning. If a city this proud can kneel without a fight, what else will follow? Not all will open their gates. Not all will listen. Some will burn. Some will hide. Some will raise swords instead of prayers. And when that happens, you will not walk through the gates. You will ride through them. But for now, Bokhara sleeps beneath your rule. Its walls remain, but its shape has changed. Its streets still curve, but they bend toward your name now. The transformation is not loud, but it is permanent. And the silence that once stood behind the gates is now filled with new breath. You wonder, as you sit beside your horse and listen to the stillness, how do messages move faster than men? Couriers ride faster than birds. Messages crossing entire continents in a single moon. You follow the yam, the postal relay that hums with silent movement. Between stations, you pass relics, ruins, and red sands, the bones of empires past. And still the words keep riding, faster than the fall of kingdoms. A web is forming, invisible, immense, spun by hooves. You begin to ride not for conquest now, but for connection. The bow rests. The sword is sheathed. Yet something swifter is drawn. A message, wrapped in leather, tied with urgency, passed from hand to hand across a world that breathes and gallops. This is the yam. Not a word shouted in war, but a whisper carried on wind. A postal system unlike any before, strung across the spine of the earth. It is not bound by borders. It is not slowed by mountains. It lives in relay stations, in fresh horses, in riders who do not sleep. You feel the rhythm of it under your saddle. Ride, hand off, ride again. The hooves barely pause. From the heart of the empire to its edges, a message can travel faster than the moon's full circle. And these are not just letters. They are lifeblood. Orders, treaties, warnings, whispers, all move as one. The system is simple, and because it is simple, it is strong. You stop briefly at a station. A low wooden building, a waiting horse, a pot of tea left warm. There are no gates, no guards, just readiness. The next rider is already watching the horizon. He does not ask questions. He does not boast. He takes the message, nods, and is gone before the steam fades from a cup. You follow in your mind. You ride with him through forests where wolves prowl, across rivers where bridges are made of ice. At every station, the next rider waits. At every turn, the world narrows, not into isolation, but into clarity. This is how an empire breathes, not just by conquering, but by speaking, and more importantly, by being heard. The yam is the spine of something larger than war. It is the quiet magic that allows decisions made in Mongolia to echo in the Persian mountains. It is how silk routes are protected, how alliances are formed, how rebellions are noticed before they grow teeth. You ride past burned-out cities, now quiet with ash. You pass bones half buried in sand, reminders of what happens when speed is not on your side. But above these ruins, the hooves continue. The messages continue, because what survives is not always the strongest, but the fastest. The riders are not warriors, and yet they are sacred. To harm a courier is death. To block a road is betrayal. Their work is silent, but their protection is loud. And so the network grows, invisible lines drawn over thousands of miles. From China to Crimea, from Samarkand to Baghdad, like veins, like rivers, like roots spreading underground. You think about how fragile it all is and how powerful. A single slip of parchment now moves where once armies would have marched. And what does it carry? Not always conquest. Often it carries care, a warning of illness, a request for grain, a message of peace. Sometimes the message is nothing more than a thought, a single sentence from a Khan. And yet, that thought ripples outward like a stone dropped in still water. This is not a web spun to trap. It is a web spun to feel, to know, and you begin to understand. Knowledge, when it moves faster than fear, changes everything. You pass caravans now, traveling with fewer guards. Roads are safer. Bandits hesitate. Even merchants, once silent in foreign lands, begin to speak with confidence. They know someone is listening. This is not just control. It is trust, slowly grown. And the roads themselves become maps of memory. You pass ruins, not Mongol but older. You see broken aqueducts, temples without roofs, stones carved with forgotten scripts. You do not stop, but you notice. These are once great too, you think. But their messages did not move fast enough. Now, you carry the future in the satchel at your side. And as you ride farther, you begin to feel something larger. Not just the empire, but its pulse, its voice. The yam is not a thing. It is a breath. It inhales at the capital. It exhales at the edges. And all along the way, it whispers, you are not alone. Someone sees. Someone hears. The bones beneath your feet remind you what happens when silence rules. But this moving, murmuring network is how the Mongols replace fear with rhythm. And still, the riders keep going, day and night, season after season. You wonder what it feels like to hold a message no one else has read, to ride with the weight of history under your cloak. Perhaps that is what power truly is, not the sword, but the sentence that arrives before the sword is needed. You return to your station now. The fire has dimmed. The horses rest. The message has flown, but the road stretches on, and someone, somewhere, waits for the next rider. You lie down beside your pack and let the silence settle. Not empty now, but full of meaning. And as you close your eyes, you wonder softly, what does a ruler listen for in a world this wide? Genghis listens to merchants, monks, mathematicians, and mystics. Your ears fill with many languages. Your mind expands without borders. You begin to understand. Empire is not just land, but thought in motion. He does not need to be everywhere. He only needs to know. And so the world folds inward like a letter in the hand of a writer. You sit at the edge of gathering. There is no battlefield here, no armor, no banners. Only voices, low, layered many. The flicker of firelight dances across maps and manuscripts. And in the center, Genghis Khan leans forward, not to speak, but to listen. He listens to a merchant who has crossed deserts, whose tongue bends with Persian vowels and Indian dust. He speaks of goods and roads, of salt and silk, of cities that thrive and shrines that shimmer in the dawn. Genghis does not interrupt. He nods once, twice, then waits for more. Next comes a monk, his robes worn by weather, his words slow and shaped by belief. He tells of the soul, of sin, of stars aligned and truths eternal. He is not scorned. He is heard. You feel your ears opening wider, as if language itself is changing shape around you. Not just Mongolian now, but Arabic, Chinese, Uyghur, Greek. Some words you don't understand, but the listening stretches you like a bridge built between minds. This is not conquest by the sword. This is conquest by attention. Genghis Khan does not assume he knows everything. He builds not by declaring, but by gathering. He collects minds the way others collect weapons. Carefully, respectfully, strategically. He understands something vital. An empire built only on land will fall with the wind. But an empire built on ideas that can ride forever. You imagine it now. Ideas crossing mountains as fast as armies, carried not in saddlebags, but in memory. He invites astrologers to draw stars. He asks engineers how rivers bend. He listens to healers, to poets, to travelers with dirt under their nails. Each voice is weighed. Not all are believed, but all are invited. You realize this is how he rules without walls. Not through presence, but through perception. In every city, someone reports back. Not just spies, but scholars. Not just officials, but storytellers. He wants to know what people believe, what they eat, how they bury their dead. He wants to know what angers them, what soothes them, what they fear. You see him building not a palace, but a map of minds. And on that map, you see lines that never touch, yet somehow connect. From Baghdad to Beijing, his ear stretches. Through caravan whispers, through translated scrolls, through songs sung in taverns. He listens to patterns, to silences, to the things people say when they think no one is listening. And from that, he learns how to move, not just his armies, but his policies, his messages, his mercy. This is not softness. It is strategy. To know is to prevent revolt before it sparks. To understand is to enter a city without fighting. You watch him again, still quiet, still absorbing. Around him, knowledge becomes armor. Curiosity becomes a compass. He is not a man gathering power to keep it. He is a man gathering wisdom to use it. You feel yourself shifting too. No longer thinking of empire as territory. Now you see it as a mind expanding outward. The more you know, the less you need to destroy. You ride through villages where different gods are worshipped, where different languages flutter like prayer flags. And still, no flames. No forced creeds. Genghis does not ask for sameness. He asks only for loyalty, for clarity, for quiet cooperation. And people offer it, not always from love, but from relief, because they see that he listens. And to be heard, truly heard, is a kind of safety. Even enemies, once defeated, are not erased. They're questioned, embraced sometimes, their skills, their knowledge preserved. A Chinese engineer is spared to build siege weapons. A Persian clerk is asked to track supplies. A scholar from Samarkand is brought to consult on law. Every mind has a place. Every thought has a use. And you, riding through this web of listening, begin to ask yourself, what happens when a leader understands not just how people fight, but why? You pass through a city untouched by war, its streets humming with quiet trade. On a wall, a decree is posted in 3 languages. Nearby, a school opens with teachers from 4 countries. And still, the voice of the Khan travels farther than his shadow. You rest that evening beneath a tree, scroll in hand, the voices of the day still echoing in your thoughts. The stars above are scattered, but they shine as one sky. And you wonder softly, as you close your eyes, if listening builds connection, what happens when the connection becomes too vast to hold? As the Mongols reach into Persia and the edges of Europe, something shifts. You cross snowy mountains, dry riverbeds, and burning cities. The fire of conquest is both warmth and destruction. It cannot be touched without scars. The world watches in awe and terror as the East meets the West with steel in its smile. But not all borders are conquered, and not all enemies ride horses. The air changes first, thinner, colder, touched by mountain breath. You feel it in your lungs as you rise, as if the sky presses gently against your chest. The world narrows into rocky paths, snow-lined ridges, and frozen rivers that crack under the weight of ambition. You're no longer in the open steppe. This is not the land of grass and freedom. This is the land of stone and silence, of Persia, of the Caucasus, of the distant lands westward, where names twist the tongue and faith takes different shapes. And still you ride. The fire that began on the plains is not dimmed. It burns now with focused heat. It stretches its fingers into places that once thought themselves unreachable, untouched by the bow, untouchable by wind. But the Mongol fire is not ordinary. It travels fast. It adapts. It bends but does not break. It crosses the mountains not with brute strength, but with patience, with planning, with precision. You pass through mountain passes where no map offers guidance. You cross riverbeds dry from forgotten rains. At your side, warriors lead horses through snow waist-deep, the steam of breath rising like ghosts. And when you descend into the valleys of Persia, you bring not just horses, but judgment. Here, resistance has roots. Cities are older, richer, proud. They speak in poetry and calculation. Their walls are tall, their books deep, but they do not believe the storm can touch them. Until it does. The fire arrives not with rage, but with rhythm. A city refuses tribute. A governor insults an envoy. The rules, once made clear, are broken. And so Genghis answers, not with words, but with warning. One city is taken, then another. The walls crumble, not only with siege, but with fear. 1,000 years of stone torn down in days. And you walk among ruins where once scholars studied, where children played, where prayers rose. Now, only ashes drift on the wind, soft and gray, like forgotten intentions. This is the fire you ride beside, one that warms its own, but burns what resists. And yet, even fire has memory. You see moments of restraint, skilled workers spared, bridges left standing, a library protected while a palace falls. Because the fire is not random. It is not cruel for cruelty's sake. It is chosen, calculated, controlled. Still, your hands tremble when they touch a gate blackened by flame. You feel the heat long after it's gone. Not all who follow the Khan are at ease with this destruction, but none question it, because the message is clear. The world must bend or it will break. You ride west now, into lands with no yurts, no herds, no echoes of the steppe. Cities with stone spires pierce the sky. Cathedrals stand where temples once did. The roads are paved, but the fear is familiar. Europe hears the hoofbeats before it sees the riders. The Hungarians, the Poles, the German princes, they whisper of a force from the east, a thunder with no name. They do not understand the wind. They do not know how to read silence. Their maps end where your path begins, and so they fall. At Mohi, the Danube turns red. At Legnica, knights lie beside broken standards. Their armor is thick, but their plans are thin. You see the fire's edge reach even the heart of Christendom. But then it pauses. Why? Because Genghis is gone, and even the greatest fire flickers in the wind of succession. The riders are called back east, not by defeat, but by duty. The borders of empire still stretch, but the flame dims just enough to leave parts of the world untouched for now. You sit by the embers of a battlefield. Around you, the snow returns. Ash drifts through it like feathers. No songs rise. No flags flutter. Only memory remains. You feel the shift, not just of geography, but of emotion. The fire that once seemed invincible now glows with complexity. It is not just light. It is shadow. It builds, but it scars. It clears the way, but leaves echoes behind. You ride back through the valleys, the rivers, the mountains. Some cities have begun to rebuild. Others remain hollow. And still, the empire grows. But you begin to wonder, what happens to fire when there is nothing left to burn? What happens when conquest must give way to something slower, something deeper? You feel the saddle beneath you. The mountains ahead rise once more. And in the distance, beyond the ridge lines and the ruined towers, you sense something older waiting. something that fire cannot melt. Not rebellion, not steel, but silence. The kind that begins with questions unspoken and loyalty untested. You feel the pulse of rebellion. Whispers in alleyways, ambushes in hills. The Mongols can conquer land, but not always hearts. Some resist, not with swords, but with stories. The cracks begin not in stone, but in silence and memory. And so begins the slow unraveling of a dream once held tightly in a saddlebag. The roads that once echoed with certainty now carry quieter sounds. The rustle of doubt, the sigh of discontent. You ride slower now, not because the horses are tired, but because something in the air has changed. It is not a battle. It is not a revolt. It is something harder to name. A story, perhaps, told in a marketplace, muttered behind a closed door, passed between hands like a hidden coin. You lean into the wind and listen. Not everyone welcomes peace carved by fear. Not every mind bends as easily as a bow. Some remember what the land was before the hoofbeats. Some still sing the old songs, still whisper the names of fallen kings beneath their breath. And you feel it, the tension, not sharp but steady, like water wearing down stone. This is the kind of rebellion that does not come with a banner. It comes with silence. A village that once paid its tribute now hesitates. A local leader delays a message. A child throws a stone and runs. These are not armies. They are roots, deep and tangled. Hard to see, harder to pull. You travel through a city once taken with ease. Now, the faces you pass do not bow. They turn away. Their voices stop when you approach. Their eyes say, "You are here, but not welcome." And the law, the yasa, once followed like the rhythm of breath, begins to flicker. Not everywhere, but in pockets, in moments, in the spaces where memory and pride still breathe. You remember the fire that crossed the mountains. You remember its heat, its purpose, its reach. But even fire cannot burn what it cannot find. And hearts are hidden things. You ride through a forest trail, narrow and quiet. The trees press in, the leaves whisper. Then, from the shadows, a flash, an ambush. Not large, not successful, but sudden and real. The Mongols win the skirmish. They always do. But the message is clear. The silence has teeth. You begin to understand what power cannot touch, that belonging cannot be forced, that some songs only live when sung freely, that loyalty grown from fear cannot root deeply. And so the edges of the empire begin to blur. Not collapse, not yet, but soften like cloth washed too many times. The colors fade, the seams loosen. What once was armor now feels more like thread. Genghis Khan is gone. His sons rule now. And while they inherit his map, they do not always carry his presence. The strength remains, but the shape of it begins to shift. There is less listening, more declaring, less movement, more sitting, and the people notice. You ride into a settlement in the north. Once, they greeted riders with bread and salt. Now, the doors stay closed. No one runs to meet the hooves. Not because they expect violence, but because they no longer expect anything at all. This is how empires unravel. Not in fire, not in a single fall, but in forgetfulness. You pause at a shrine once spared. Its roof now leaks. Its keeper has fled. Ivy climbs its walls. You step inside and breathe the dust of something sacred, something that once meant more than control. You wonder what dream first filled this saddlebag. What vision made so many rides so far, through heat and hunger, through storm and snow? Was it unity? Was it order? Or was it just the motion itself? The joy of galloping into the unknown? Now, the unknown rides back toward you, and it carries stories of cities rising again without your maps, of new leaders speaking old tongues, of traders choosing other routes, of children who no longer know the names written in Mongol script. You ride on, feeling the wind in your face gentler now, as if the world is exhaling something long held in. It is not anger, it is memory, and memory cannot be ruled. Not forever, not by law, not by sword, not even by silence. You arrive at a river. The bridge you once built still stands, but moss climbs its sides. You cross slowly, hearing the water below whisper. It does not resist you, but it does not carry your reflection clearly anymore. And as you reach the other side, you begin to wonder, what does an empire leave behind when even its name begins to fade? The man who conquered the world is buried in secret, without a stone to mark him. You walk in silence through a field where no one knows, and yet everyone remembers. His empire splintered, but his myth remains, riding forever across time. You close your eyes as the grass sways again, soft as breath. The wind returns, and you wonder what history dreams when it sleeps. The wind has circled back. It carries no banners now, no commands, just memory and a question. You ride without destination, only direction. Eastward, homeward, or perhaps inward. The roads are quieter than before. The names of cities pass like clouds. Samarkand, Karakoram, each one holding stories, but loosening their grip on the rider who first gave them order. You are searching, though you don't say it aloud. Not for treasure, not for conquest, but for a resting place. Somewhere beneath your feet, in a field untouched by monument, lies a man the world could not forget, and yet never truly finds. There is no grave, no stone, no temple bearing his image. Only stories. You walk through tall grass. It brushes your palms like memory, soft and slow. The sky above is wide again, the same sky that once watched him rise. The same sky that kept his secret. Genghis Khan is gone. The man who united tribes, who shattered walls, who stitched the world into one continuous thread of hoofbeat and law. He vanished in a legend, even before the last breath left his body. His burial was a whisper wrapped in ceremony. His guards, some say, killed anyone who saw the procession. Others say rivers were diverted, horses scattered earth, trees planted to confuse time itself. To build an empire that touches oceans, and yet leave behind not even a name carved in stone. But perhaps he understood something deeper. That legacy is not granite. It is rhythm. It is the way people ride, the way they speak, the way they remember. You kneel in the grass. Nothing here tells you you've arrived, and yet something inside you stills, as if the earth beneath you remembers, even if it does not say so aloud. You listen, and in that listening, you hear not silence, but continuity. The empire he built has fractured. His sons, his grandsons, they divide what he united. Cities slip from maps. Trade slows. Languages split like rivers at a fork. But the idea of him remains. In museums, maps still trace his lines. In folktales, his name stirs fear and awe. In the bones of roads, in the customs of armies, in the treaties signed between strangers, his echo lives. Because some dreams are too large for bodies to hold. They spill outward into others. And some people don't end. They disperse. You lie down in the field. Let the sky fold over you like a blanket. Let the grass whisper to your skin. Let the idea of empire fall away and just rest in the quiet of what is left behind. You think about how he ruled, not just through war, but through waiting, through listening, through movement, through rhythm. And maybe that's why no stone was raised. Maybe the truest tribute is not a tomb, but a trail. A path that continues long after the hoofbeats have faded. You close your eyes and drift into the shape of memory. You see the boy beside the fire, the exile in the snow, the rider with the crescent bow, the man in the tent, listening not to noise but to meaning. You remember the first time he spoke of law beneath the eternal blue sky. You remember the city that opened its gates without a fight. You remember the fire and the silence that followed. And now you are here, not at the end, just at the edge of something you cannot name. You feel the weight of that absence now, not heavy, but vast. Is strange, isn't it? To build an empire that touches oceans, and yet leave behind not even a name carved in stone. But perhaps he understood something deeper. That legacy is not granite. It is rhythm. It is the way people ride, the way they speak, the way they remember. You kneel in the grass. Nothing here tells you you've arrived, and yet something inside you stills, as if the earth beneath you remembers, even if it does not say so aloud. You listen, and in that listening, you hear not silence, but continuity. The empire he built has fractured. His sons, his grandsons, they divide what he united. Cities slip from maps. Trade slows. Languages split like rivers at a fork. But the idea of him remains. In museums, maps still trace his lines. In folktales, his name stirs fear and awe. In the bones of roads, in the customs of armies, in the treaties signed between strangers, his echo lives. Because some dreams are too large for bodies to hold. They spill outward into others. And some people don't end. They disperse. You lie down in the field. Let the sky fold over you like a blanket. Let the grass whisper to your skin. Let the idea of empire fall away and just rest in the quiet of what is left behind. You think about how he ruled, not just through war, but through waiting, through listening, through movement, through rhythm. And maybe that's why no stone was raised. Maybe the truest tribute is not a tomb, but a trail. A path that continues long after the hoofbeats have faded. You close your eyes and drift into the shape of memory. You see the boy beside the fire, the exile in the snow, the rider with the crescent bow, the man in the tent, listening not to noise but to meaning. You remember the first time he spoke of law beneath the eternal blue sky. You remember the city that opened its gates without a fight. You remember the fire and the silence that followed. And now you are here, not at the end, just at the edge of something you cannot name. Because the grave without a marker is not empty. It is full of questions. You wonder what he dreamed as he lay dying. Not of land, not of gold, but of wind, of horses, of the faces of men who once called him brother before they called him Khan. You feel that longing too, that quiet ache for the simplicity that came before legacy. And so you breathe with the grass. You let go of the names, the titles, the maps. You let history loosen its grip for just a moment. And in that loosening, something soft returns, a kind of peace, not of stillness, but of release. You rise slowly. The wind brushes your cheek like a memory. Moving on, you mount your horse and look back one last time, though there is nothing to see, only everything to feel. And as you ride forward again, under the sky that has never changed,